Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Israel YK Lubogo, and today we are exploring the depths of the Merchant of Venice. We will talk about the themes, the characters, and critical analysis, all by Israel YK Lubogo. The Merchant of Venice is a Shakespearean play that revolves around themes of mercy, justice, prejudice, and love. Antonio, a Avatanian merchant, secures a loan from Sherlock, a Jewish moneylender, to help his friend Bassanio, to help him court the wealthy heiress Portia. Sherlock, harboring resentment due to Antonio's past insults and societal prejudice, demands a pound of Antonio's flesh as collateral, while Bassanio wins Portia's hand by choosing the correct casket in a test devised by her late father. As Antonio's ships are reported lost at sea, he faces a dire bonds penalty. In the climatic trial scene, Portia, disguised as a lawyer, ingeniously saves Antonio by interpreting the bond to allow only the flesh but not blood, thus outwitting Sherlock. Sherlock is further punished by being forced to convert to Christianity and forfeit his wealth. The play concludes with joyous reunions and the restoration of the order. Through the treatment of Sherlock, invites ongoing ethical debate. Through its intricate plot and character dynamics, the play critically examines human values as well as societal norms. Studying The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare is a literature course and involves in-depth exploration of its themes, characters, plot, language, as well as historical context. Here's a detailed guide on what to expect as well as how to excel. Let us start with a detailed chronological summary of The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare. Act 1, Scene 1. The setting is Venice, and the summary goes like this. Antonio, a wealthy merchant, is inexplicably sad. His friends Salario and Solanio suggest his sadness may be due to concerns over his merchant ships at sea or unrequited love, but Antonio denies these reasons. Bassanio's request. Bassanio, a young nobleman at Antonio's close friend, asks Antonio for a loan to court the wealthy heiress Portia. Antonio's funds are tied up in his ships, so he suggests borrowing money on his credit. Scene 2. The setting is Belmont. Summary. Portia discusses her suitors with her maid Nerissa. Bound by her deceased father's will, Portia's suitors must choose from 3 caskets, gold, silver, and lead, to win her hand in marriage. Portia laments on the lack of control over her own choice, but hopes for Bassanio, whom she favors, to succeed. Scene 3. The setting is Venice. The summary goes like this. Bassanio approaches Sherlock, a Jewish moneylender, for a loan. Sherlock harbors a grudge against Antonio for his public insults and financial competition. Sherlock agrees to lend 3,000 ducats on one condition, that if Antonio defaults, Sherlock will be entitled to a pound of Antonio's flesh. Antonio agrees, confident that his ships will return in time. Act 3, Scene 1. The setting is Belmont, and the summary goes like this. The Prince of Morocco arrives to attempt the casket challenge, confident in his worthiness as well as despite his dark complexion. Scene 2. The setting is Venice, and the summary goes like this. Lancelot Gobbo, Sherlock's servant, contemplates leaving his master's service. He eventually decides to work for Bassanio. Bassanio agrees and also invites Gratiano, a rowdy friend, to accompany him to Belmont. provided that he tones down his rowdy behavior. Scene 3. The setting is Venice. And the summary goes like this. Jessica, Sherlock's daughter, reveals her plans to elope with Lorenzo, a Christian. She gives Lancelot a letter to which he has to deliver to Lorenzo. Scene 4. The setting is Venice. And the summary is like this. Lorenzo and his friends, including Gratanio, plan to help Jessica escape by disguising her as a peg boy. They prepare for the masquerade. Scene 5. The setting of Scene 5 is Venice. And the summary is like this. Sherlock prepares to carry out, reluctantly leaving his house in Jessica's care. He instructs her to lock up and always stay inside. Scene 6. And the setting for Scene 6 is Venice. And a simple summary for Scene 6 goes like this. Lorenzo arrives at Sherlock's house, and Jessica, who is apparently dressed as a boy, escapes with him, taking a substantial amount as well as of Sherlock's wealth. Scene 7. The setting is Beaumont, and the summary is like this. The Prince of Morocco chooses the gold casket, believing it to contain Portia's portrait. However, he chooses incorrectly, finding a skull and a scroll indicating his failure. Scene 8. The setting is Venice, and the summary is like this. Salerio and Solanio discuss Sherlock's reaction to Jessica's elopement, as well as the bad news about Antonio's ships facing trouble at sea. Scene 9. The setting is Beaumont, and the summary goes like this. The Prince of Aragon attempts the casket challenge and also chooses the silver casket, as well as ending up in failing. News arrives to Bassanio's impending visit, which raises Portia's spirit. Act 3. Scene 1. The setting is Venice, and here's a simple summary. Sherlock is distraught over Jessica's betrayal as well as the loss of his wealth. Solanio and Salario, they taunt him, leading Sherlock to passionately defend his humanity as well as vow on revenge on Antonio, who now faces financial ruin. Scene 2. The setting is Beaumont, and the summary, as simple it is. Bassanio arrives and proposes the lead casket, correctly winning Portia's hand. Portia gives Bassanio a ring, symbolizing their engagement, and she makes him make a vow never to part with it. Gratanio now reveals his engagement to Nerissa. News arrives about Antonio's misfortune, and Sherlock demands for the pound of flesh. Portia offers to pay Antonio's debt multiple times over and over, and argues Bassanio to return to Venice. Scene 3. The setting is Venice. Sherlock refuses to show mercy to Antonio, insisting on the bond. Antonio prepares for the worst, resigned to his fate of the pound of flesh. Scene 4. The setting is Beaumont, and a simple summary. Portia and Nerissa disguise themselves as men and leave for Venice. Their intentions to intervene in Antonio's impending trial. Scene 5. The setting is Beaumont, and a simple summary. Lancelot humorously debates with Jessica as well as Lorenzo about the consequences of her conversion to Christianity. Act 4. Act 4, Scene 1. And the setting for Scene 1 is Venice. A summary can go like this. The trial takes place before the Duke. Sherlock demands the pound to be fulfilled, while Antonio's friends plead for mercy. Portia, on the other hand, disguised as a young lawyer, arrives and argues for mercy, but still upholds the law. She ingeniously interprets the bond, stating Sherlock can only take the flesh but not a drop of blood, trapping him legally. Sherlock is forced to convert to Christianity and forfeit his wealth, half to Antonio and the other half to the state, with Antonio giving his half to Lorenzo and Jessica upon Sherlock's death. Scene 2. The setting is Venice. Bassanio offers the disguised Portia the 3,000 ducats as a reward, but she requests his ring instead. Reluctantly, Bassanio gives it to her, breaking his vow with Portia. Act 5. The setting is Belmont, and the scene is 1. Summary. Lorenzo and Jessica enjoy the night at Belmont, reflecting on famous lovers. Portia and Nerissa return, shortly followed by Bassanio and Gratanio. The women accuse their husbands of parting with their rings. After some comic banter and tension, the women reveal their true identities and the entire situation is resolved. Letters arrive, confirming Antonio's ships have been returned safely. The play ends with joy and reconciliations. The Merchant of Venice is a complex play that intertwines with themes of mercy, justice, prejudice, and the power of love and friends. The narrative moves from the bustling commercial activity of Venice to the romantic and somewhat idealized setting of Belmont, ultimately changing the audience to consider the balance between the harshness of the law as well as the necessity of mercy. Ladies and gentlemen, here's what you should expect. Number 1, themes. For example, justice and mercy. Explore the balance between the conflict between justice and mercy, particularly in the courtroom scene. Prejudice and discrimination is another theme. Analyze the portrayal of anti-Semitism, racism, and the treatment of outsiders. Friendship and loyalty is another theme. Examine the bonds between characters like Antonio and Bassanio, marriage and love. Investigate the various romantic relationships and their identifications. Wealth and materialism. Consider how wealth influences the characters' actions and relationships. Number 2, characters. Sherlock, a complex character who embodies themes of revenge, justice, and mercy. His motivations and portrayal require careful analysis. Antonio, on the other hand, a merchant whose relationships and actions drive much of the plot. Portia, on the other hand, a key character female whose intelligence, resourcefulness, are crucial, particularly in the courtroom scene. Bassanio, his request for wealth and marriage to Portia is central to the plot. Jessica, Sherlock's daughter, whose actions reflect themes of identity and loyalty. Number 3, the plot. Major plot points. Understand the key events, including Antonio's bond with Sherlock, Bassanio's courtship of Portia, and the courtroom drama. Subplots. Pay attention to subplots such as the elopement of Jessica and Lorenzo and their significance. Number 4 is language and style. Shakespearean language. Analyze the use of iambic pentameter, prose and verse. Look for metaphors, similes, and other literary devices. Rhetoric. Examine how characters use language to persuade and influence others, especially in the courtroom scene. Number 5, historical and cultural context. The attitudes. Understand the play's reflection on Elizabethan views and as well as on the Jews, law, commerce, as well as gender roles. Sources and influences. Study the sources of Shakespeare, which may have been drawn on as much as the Italian story. Ladies and gentlemen, how can one study The Merchant of Venice? Number 1, by close reading. Perform detailed analysis of key passages. Pay attention to diction, imagery, as well as rhetorical devices. Annotate the text with notes on themes, character motivations, and even language. Number 2, character analysis. Create character maps and processes to understand motivations, relationships, as well as development throughout the play. Compare and contrast characters' actions and their perspectives. Number 3, contextual research. Investigate the historical, social, and cultural background of the Elizabethan England. Read scholarly articles as well as critics to gain different perspectives on the play. Number 4, thematic essays. Write thematic essays focusing on specific themes, supporting your arguments with textual evidence, practicing articulating your interpretations more clearly as well as concisely. Number 5, performance studies. Watch different adaptations as well as performances of the play to see how interpretation and staggering influence understanding. Consider how directors and actors emphasize different themes and character traits depending on how they carry out the play. Examinable areas. Number 1, essay questions. Prepare to discuss major themes, character analysis, as well as the play's relevance to its historical context. Practice forming coherent, well-supported arguments when you're responding to questions. Number 2, passage analysis. Be ready to analyze specific experts, focusing on language, themes, characters, as well as character interactions. Practice close reading skills as well as making detailed annotations. Number 3, comparative analysis. Compare and contrast The Merchant of Venice with other Shakespearean plays or works of the same period. Discuss similarities and differences in themes, characterizations, and stylistic approaches. Here are the best approaches and key points. Number 1, engage with the text. Read and reread the play. Familiarity with the text is very crucial when you want a detailed analysis of the play. Engage with the play actively by participating in discussions as well as writing reflective manuals. Number 2, use secondary sources. Utilize academic articles, critical essays, and scholarly books to enhance your understanding. Incorporate diverse perspectives to enrich your analysis of The Merchant of Venice. Number 3, practice writing. Regularly write essays as well as get feedback from instructors or peers. Focus on clarity, coherence, as well as supporting your points with textual evidence. Number 4, discussion and debate. Engage in classroom discussions to refine your ideas and hear different viewpoints from different classmates. Practice depending on your interpretations as well as considering counter arguments that are going to enrich your interpretation of the play in the same way. By following these guidelines, you can develop a deep understanding of the play the Merchant of Venice, as well as excel in your literature studies concerning this play. The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare is a rich text that has numerous themes and issues that are often examined in literature studies. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a further detailed and chronological discussion of the major examinable issues in The Merchant of Venice as a play. Act 1. Prejudice and discrimination. Number 1. Anti-Semitism. The character of Sherlock, a Jewish moneylender, faces significant prejudice from Christian characters, notably Antonio. The depiction of Sherlock's treatment raises questions about religious intolerance as well as discrimination, class, and social status. The interactions between characters, such as the wealthy merchant Antonio and the less affluent Bassanio, highlight the social hierarchies and economic disparities of Venice. Number 2, love and friendship. Bassanio and Antonio's relationship, specifically. Bassanio seeks a loan from Antonio to court Portia. Their close bond and Antonio's willingness to take a risk for Bassanio establishes a theme of friendship and loyalty. Act 2. Number 3, appearances versus reality. Specifically, the casket test. Portia's suitors must choose between 3 caskets, gold, silver, and lead, to win her hand in marriage. This test underscores the idea that true values lies beyond outward appearances. Disguises and deception. Sherlock's daughter Jessica disguises herself to elope with Lorenzo, illustrating the themes of identity as well as transformation. Number 4, culture and religious conflicts. The play continues to explore the tensions between Christians and Jews, particularly through the characters of Sherlock, who is portrayed both as a villain as well as a victim, which complicates the audience's interpretation of Sherlock as a character. Act 3. Number 5, justice and mercy. Particularly Sherlock's bond. Sherlock demonstrates and demands a pound of Antonio's flesh as collateral for the loan. The extreme penalty becomes as a central point, raising questions about the nature of justice and the potential for mercy within the legal system. Portia's role. Disguised as a lawyer, Portia argues for mercy over strict adherence to the law, emphasizing the human capacity for compassion. Number 6, revenge and forgiveness. Sherlock's motivation, in particular. Sherlock's existence on the bond is driven by a desire for revenge against the mistreatment he has endured, promoting a discussion on the destructive nature of vengeance and the possibility or the impossibility of forgiveness. Act 4. Number 7, the trial scene, particularly the legal and moral issues. The climatic trial scene addresses the conflict between Sherlock's legal right to his bond and the moral imperative to show mercy. Portia's clever legal arguments ultimately turn the tables on Sherlock. The role of women. Portia, in disguise as a man, wields significant power in the courtroom, challenging contemporary gender norms as well as expectations. Number 8, themes of identity and transformation, particularly Sherlock's transformed forced conversion to Christianity. A part of his punishment, Sherlock is forced to convert to Christianity. This act raises questions about identity and coercion and the ethics of forced assimilation. Act 5, number 9, resolution and harmony, particularly in romantic resolutions. The play concludes with the resolution of romantics, including the marriages of Bassanio and Portia, as well as Lorenzo and Jessica. These unions symbolize social harmony and reconciliation, restoration of order. The final act attempts to restore social order and balance through lingering questions about justice and Sherlock's fate, which complicate the sense of closure. Number 10. Critical interpretations. Complicity of characters. Characters like Sherlock are complex and inviting various interpretations. Sherlock can be seen as both as a villain as well as a victim, depending on one's perspective of the play's treatment of anti-Semitism as well as justice. Ethical ambiguities. The ethical ambiguities of the play, particularly regarding mercy and justice, challenge audiences to reflect on the moral implications of the characters' actions. The Merchant of Venice is a text with examinable issues, from themes of prejudice and discrimination to justice, mercy, and the complicities of human relationships. Each act of the play builds on these themes, providing comprehensive exploration of the human condition through Shakespeare's nuanced characters and the intricate plot of the play. A literature student studying The Merchant of Venice should critically appreciate several key aspects of the play, including its themes, character development, and the socio-cultural context in which it is written. Here is a general overview which highlights these critical points. Starting with major themes as our number one of the general overview. For example, prejudice and discrimination. The play explores anti-Semitism through the character of Sherlock. Sherlock, who is a Jewish moneylender, who faces contempt and prejudice from the Christian characters, notably Antonio. This theme raises important questions about religious intolerance as well as societal discrimination. Justice and mercy. The tension between strict adherence to the law and the need for money is identical particularly in the trial scene, where Portia, disguised as a lawyer, argues for mercy over rigid enforcement of Sherlock's bond. Appearance versus reality. The casket test in Belmont, where suitors must choose between gold, silver, and lead casket to win Portia's hand, symbolizes the idea that the true value lies beneath surface appearances. This theme is also reflected in the characters' various disguises as well as various deceptions. Love and friendship. The play delves into different forms of love: romantic love between Bassanio and Portia, the deep friendship between Antonio and Bassanio, and finally loyalty and sacrifices that some of these friendships come with. Number 2, character development. Starting with the character Sherlock. Sherlock is one of Shakespeare's most complex characters, as discussed earlier. He is portrayed both as a villain, and this is because due to his vengeful insistence on the bond, and also as a victim of societal prejudice. Understanding Sherlock's motivation and the extent of his suffering is crucial for a very good interpretation of the play. Antonio and his devotion to Bassanio are central to the plot. His willingness to risk his life for Bassanio's happiness highlights themes of sacrifice and loyalty. Portia is intelligent, resourceful, and constrained by her father's will. Her role in the trial scene, where she outwits the men and serves Antonio, her lover, showcases her capabilities as well as challenges contemporary to gender norms. Jessica's elopement and conversion to Christianity raises questions about identity, loyalty, as well as the complicities of familial and cultural ties. Number 3, sociocultural context. Anti-Semitism in the 16th century Venice. The portrayal of Sherlock and the treatment of Jews reflect the anti-Semitic attitudes prevalent in Shakespeare's time. Understanding the historical context of the 16th century Venice, a significant commercial hub with strict social rules and religious divisions, is very essential for interpreting the play's themes. Gender roles. The play challenges traditional gender roles, particularly through the character Portia's actions. Her intelligence and assertiveness, especially in the male-dominated society, invite discussion on the position and perception of women in the Elizabethan era. Number 4, the plot and structure. The plot structure of the play alternates between the business-oriented world of Venice and the more romantic, idealized setting of Belmont. This is creating a contrast that underscores the thematic exploration between mercy and justice. Literary devices. Shakespeare's use of language includes puns, metaphors, and dramatic irony, which enriches his text. For example, the pound of flesh metaphor and the trial scene's legal arguments are particularly notable for their dramatic and thematic impact on the play. Number 5, critical interpretations. Complicity of the interpretation. The Merchant of Venice has been subject to various interpretations, from being a critique of anti-Semitism to a reinforcement of prejudices. Modern readings often focus on Sherlock's humanity and the play's ethical ambiguities, challenging audiences to reflect on the moral implications of the character's actions throughout the play. Performance and adaptation. The play's performance on historically and adaptations offer insights into how different eras and cultures have understood and represented these themes. Notable adaptations and performances can highlight different aspects of the play, such as focusing on its comedic elements as well as its darker and more tragic dimensions. Therefore, a comprehensive appreciation of the Merchant of Venice involves, first of all, understanding its complex characters. Number 2, exploring its central themes of prejudice, justice, mercy, as well as considering its socio-cultural context. By critically engaging with these elements, a literature student can gain a deeper insight into Shakespeare's intentions and finally the enduring relevance of the play The Merchant of Venice. To excel in examining The Merchant of Venice in literature, students should focus on several major areas, including themes, character analysis, literary devices, as well as the historical context. Here's a breakdown of some of these areas, as well as tips for excelling in each area. Major examinable areas, starting with number 1, themes, prejudice and discrimination. Examine the portrayal of anti-Semitism through Sherlock and how it reflects societal attitudes of the time. Justice versus mercy. Analyze the tension between these two concepts, especially in the trial scene, and how the characters embody these themes. Love and friendship. Explore the various types of love presented in the play, for example, romantic, platonic, and familial, as well as their significance to the plot. Appearance versus reality. Discuss the significance of the cascade test and the disguises used by characters and how these elements contribute to the play's message. Number 2, character analysis. Starting with the character Sherlock. Consider Sherlock's dual role as a villain and also as a victim, his motivations, and how his character challenges or reinforces stereotypes. Antonio. Reflect on Antonio's relationship with Bassanio and his role, as well as in the central conflict throughout the play. Portia. Analyze Portia's intelligence, resourcefulness, and the limitations imposed on her by societal norms. The character Jessica. Discuss Jessica's rebellion against her father, her conversion to Christianity, and the implications that come with Jessica's identity. Number 3, literary devices. Starting with the first device, symbolism. Here, examine the symbolic meaning of the three caskets and Sherlock's bond. Irony. Here, identify instances of dramatic situational as well as verbal irony, particularly in the trial scene and Portia's disguise. Metaphors and similes. Analyze key metaphors as well as similes, such as the pound of flesh and their thematic significance. Language and dialogue. Study the use of prose and verse and how characters' speech patterns reflect their social status as well as their intentions, plus the impact of rhetoric devices. Number 4, historical and social context. Anti-Semitism in the Elizabethan England particularly. Understand the historical context of anti-Semitism during Shakespeare's time, and also how it influences the play. Gender roles. Examine the expectations of women in the society and how Portia as well as Jessica challenge or conform to these roles and their expectations. Economic practices. Discuss the portrayal of trade, usury, and the importance of money in the society in which the characters are living. We go to the tips for excelling in exams, starting with thorough reading as well as thorough analysis. Read the play multiple times to fully understand the plot, characters, and themes. Point out keynotes, point out key passages, and note significant literary devices in the process of reading over and over again. Number 2, strong thesis and argumentation. Develop clear, concise thesis statements for essays. Support your argument with specific evidence from the text, including quotes and detailed analysis. Number 3, contextual knowledge. Familiarize yourself with historical, cultural, and social context of the play. Integrate this knowledge into your analysis to demonstrate a deeper understanding of the context. Number 4, critical perspectives. Engage with different critical perspectives and interpretations of the play. Consider how various scholars view characters like Sherlock and the themes like justice and mercy, which are portrayed throughout the plot of the play. Number 5, practice writing. Write practice essays and responses to past exam questions. Focus on clear structure, coherent arguments, and textual evidence. Number 6, discussion and collaboration. Participate in study groups and class discussions to explore different viewpoints and deepen your understanding of the play. Number 7, memorization of key passages. Here, memorize important quotes and passages that exemplify major themes and character traits. This will allow you to reference them accurately when you're giving answers in your exams. Number 8, detailed character and theme charts. Create charts or mind maps that outline the key attributes, motivations, and relationships of characters, as well as the development of themes throughout the play. Therefore, by focusing on these areas and employing these strategies, students can gain a comprehensive understanding of the play The Merchant of Venice, as well as excel in their literature exams. Ladies and gentlemen, here's an example of some of the themes. For example, prejudice and discrimination, our number one. Talking about anti-Semitism and an analysis, the character of Sherlock is central to the theme of anti-Semitism. Shakespeare portrays Sherlock as both a victim and also a villain, complicating the straightforward interpretation of the play. And Sherlock's famous speech, "Hath not a Jew eyes," in Act 2, Scene 1, humanizes him and calls attention to the common humanity shared by both Jews as well as Christians. Despite the severe prejudice he faces, this speech can be interpreted as a plea for empathy and a critique for anti-Semitic attitudes which were prevalent by then. Critical thinking. Consider how Sherlock's character may be interpreted differently in a contemporary context versus in Shakespeare's time. Analyze the context in which Shakespeare critiques and reinforces stereotypes all through Sherlock's portrayal. This is our part 1, and prepare for part 2. Thank you for listening to me thus far. I shall take my leave.